noster, qui es in celis, sanctificetur nomen tuum, adveniat regnum tuum, fiat voluntas tua, sicut in cielo et in terra. Panem nostrum quotidianum da nobis hodie, et dimite nobis debita nostra, sicut et nos dimittimus debitoribus nostris, et ne nos inducas in tentationem, sed libera nos a malo.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Tuesdays with Tommy. How's everybody doing today? Hello there, Stacks. I see you in the chat. So today is Tuesday, April 15th. It is the Tuesday of Holy Week. I hope everybody is taking some time and reflecting on what this week is all about. I know a lot of people, a lot of Christians like to just celebrate Easter, but there is no Easter without Good Friday, or that being said, with Holy Thursday. So I hope everybody's reflecting on those things because they're a huge part of our religion. So tonight we are talking about the Third Crusade. Very much like the first two Crusades, we're not going to get too much into the lore and legend. It's just going to cover key dates and battles and a few people involved. Because as I've said before, the waters are really muddied around these things, and it's really, really hard to tell what is truth and what is fiction when it comes to a lot of the stuff revolving around the Crusades. Very much like how this Third Crusade started. If anybody has seen the movie Kingdom of Heaven, that is pretty much about what led up to this Third Crusade, the fall of Jerusalem. And I'm by no means saying that that is a historically accurate movie, because it is not, as far as the events that transpired and all that stuff. But it is, if you're wondering where that movie kind of falls into the story of the Crusades and all that, it is right before the Second Crusade. Or I'm sorry, right before the Third Crusade. So yeah, the fall of Jerusalem happens, and that's when the Third Crusade gets called, and need to screen that next movie night. Yeah, that's oh, I should probably show that. Yes, yeah, it's a good movie. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't call it historically accurate. It's a movie. It's Hollywood. So, they're going to do what they can to make Catholics look bad like they always do. And they're going to embellish stories and, yada, yada. But yes, very important. Don't move your armies away from water. That is the moral I took away from that story. Although I already kind of knew that. But yes, if there's anything to take away from that movie is, yes, keep your armies near water. You cannot survive without water. So, So yeah, once again, happy Holy Week to everybody, and I guess we will jump in here. Again, like I said, just key dates and players and battles. Not getting into any of the lore. The waters are too muddied when it comes to that. But so the Third Crusade. It starts with the fall of Jerusalem. Sorry. October 2nd, 1187. The Third Crusade was kindled by grievous sacrilege when Saladin, the Ayyubid Sultan, sorry, these I've already told you guys before. Please forgive me for butchering some of these names, especially the Muslim ones. The Ayyubid Sultan captured Jerusalem after annihilating the Catholic host in Hattin on July 4th, 1187. The true cross, Christ's sacred relic, was paraded in chains. The Holy Sepulchre altars were defiled with Muslim rites, and 15,000 Christians faced slaughter or slavery. This outrage, a wound to the Savior's heart, rallied the church to wage holy war, providing its divine mandate to restore God's city with righteous fury. So, again, as I stated a little bit ago, talking about the movie Kingdom of Heaven, is wildly inaccurate as a lot of that is. It does lay the groundwork for the Third Crusade. So that was October of 1187. So in October 29th of 1187, through the spring of 1188, Pope Gregory the Eighth, wielding St. Peter's keys, issued Audite Termendi, from Ferrara, summoning Christendom to reclaim Jerusalem with promises of eternal salvation. Clement III, his successor, amplified the call, dispatching legates like Cardinal Henry of Albano, Archbishop Josias of Tyre, weeping before Europe's courts, spurred Frederick Barbarossa, Philip Augustus, and Richard the Lionheart to vow crusade at Mainz, Gisors, and Tours. Their oaths, sworn amid relics and incense, united 150,000 souls under the church's banner, a miracle of Catholic zeal. So, yeah, we have another papal bull coming from Gregory VIII, Audite Tremendi, which kind of was a call to the Third Crusade, very much like the papal bulls of the first and the second. So summer and spring of 1188, the Crusaders' vows and the God's anointed kings. So in Mainz Cathedral on March 27th, 1188, Frederick, a 67-year-old titan of faith, knelt with son Henry VI and Duke Frederick of Swabia, vowing to lead 15,000 Germans. Richard, England's warrior king, took the cross at Tours beside Archbishop Baldwin of Canterbury, raising 10,000 English, while Philip swore at Gisors with 8,000 French. Nobles like Guy of Lusignan, Jerusalem's exiled king, and Theobald of Blois joined their crosses sewn in masses, transforming them into Christ knights destined for martyrdom or glory. And that was just kind of it, guys. Like, they were going, and they're like, we're either going to be martyrs or we're going to be victorious. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So, on we went. And this is in 1188. So the departures of the army happened in 1189, the summer of 1190. So Frederick's host bearing St. Victor's relics and the Mainz crucifix marched from Regensburg on May 11th, 1189. Their 15,000 voices chanting Salve Regina. Richard and Philip, delayed by feuds, united at Vézelay on July 4th, 1190. July 4th seems to be a date that comes up a lot in these crusades. So there's some Catholic significance to the 4th of July. So sailing from Messina with 200 ships, galleys adorned with crosses, and 18,000 men, Roger of Haldon, a cleric chronicler, hailed this as divine exodus, the church's sword raised to smite Saladin and restore the Holy Sepulchre's light. And that was the most important thing when it came to these crusades, was regaining the Holy Sepulchre. It was, as most people know, the Holy Sepulchre is the church that is built on top of where Christ was crucified and buried. So, that was most important. I mean, the holy city of Jerusalem as a whole was important, but but regaining the sepulcher was number one priority always with the Crusades. So after they set out, the first triumph comes Frederick's triumph at Iconium. That's May 18th of 1190. Crossing Anatolia, Frederick faced Seljuk harassment from Konya's Sultan Qutub al-Din on May 17th. 10,000 Turks ambushed near Iconium, but Frederick clutched a relic of St. Stephen, rallied 12,000 knights. The next day, his heavy cavalry stormed the city, slaying 3,000 foes and seizing 5,000 bushels of wheat. Catholic scribes wrote they saw angels in the fray, proclaiming the victory a sign of God's favor, paving the way for Jerusalem's redemption. So, first victory, they conquer some Muslims, but they also secure food. You know, they get grain, and also they boost morale. You know, we're coming in here, we're we're attacking. So defending a city, especially a walled city, is a lot easier. You know, a couple thousand people can fend off 10,000 people if done right. You take a lot heavier losses when you're trying to attack than defend. So every time you take a city or a an embankment or any type of fortified structure, it's a huge win. And if you can walk away with supplies from that, it's an even bigger win. So, that was in May of 1190. So the next key point, sorry. So the next key point coming up in June 10th of 1190. If you guys know, that was May 18th. So June 10th, not even a month later, tragedy at the Silifke River. On June 10th, Frederick, bathing in the icy Silifke River, perished. Whether by divine will or more mortal frailty, none could say. So he was bathing in the river, and it was cold. So some say it was hypothermia. Others say he was just, it was his time. Who knows? Nobody really knows. So I'm not going to speculate, because that's kind of, I've been making a whole point of not speculating during this and just giving the facts. So, he died bathing in the river. That's all we know for sure. His 15,000 man army, now under Frederick of Swabia, crumbled. 10,000 died of plague or deserted in Cilicia. Yet Catholics revered Barbarossa as a martyr. His soul crowned by Jesus, the remnant 5,000 strong reached Antioch with the emperor's salted corpse. Their faith a torch against despair, trusting God's plan for the Crusade's triumph. So yeah, these guys just lost their king or their leader, and now they're like, we got to press on. We started this, and we're going to finish it. So the next big battle coming up here is the Siege of Acre. Begins August 28th, 1189 through the summer of 1190, so almost full year. Before the kings arrived, Guy of Lusignan, freed from Saladin's chains, besieged Acre with 10,000 men, joined by Conrad of Montferrat and Archbishop Ubaldo. By 1190, 30,000 crusaders encircled the port's 5,000 man garrison. Enduring dysentery and Saladin's raids, Patriarch Heraclius led daily masses, blessing siege engines like the Holy Catapult. Despite 12,000 deaths, their perseverance rooted in Catholic devotion shone as a beacon of divine election. And you're going to notice some of the names of some of this stuff here, like the Holy Catapult. I love this stuff. It's just like, why not? I've got the Holy Catapult and God's battering ram and things like that. So after that siege, and this is kind of a sidebar, but an important one, comes the conquest of Cyprus. In May of 1191, en route to Acre, Richard's fleet was storm tossed to Cyprus, where Isaac Komnenos, a rebellious Greek, seized his ships. Richard, God's Lion, landed on May 6th, capturing Limassol and routing Isaac's 3,000 troops at Tremethus. By May 12th, he chained Isaac in silver fetters, consecrated Cyprus as a Catholic stronghold under Bishop John of Evreux. Sorry. Uh, this conquest, yielding 20,000 gold marks, was hailed as a miracle, securing a base to sustain the Crusade's holy mission. So, although wasn't planned, they weren't going to take Cyprus. It was just we kind of, I don't want to say shipwrecked there, but more or less shipwrecked there. Um, got there by tossed by storms. Um, they were like, well, if you're going to attack us and take my men prisoner, I'm just going to take over Cyprus, and we're going to use this as a launching point and a supply route to help get supplies through to our mission in the Holy Land. So the conquest of Cyprus was, kind of important, even though not really planned. Sorry. So Richard's and Philip's arrival in Acre was April through July of 1191. So hard to keep this thing lit while I'm trying to talk to you guys. So Philip landed on April 20th of 1191 with 8,000 French, building rams dubbed the Pilgrim's Hope. Richard arrived June 8th with 10,000 English, his trebuchet, God's Vengeance, hurling stones day and night. Saladin's 15,000-man relief army faltered on July 12th. Acre's garrison surrendered after 700 days. Priests reconsecrated its mosque, raising crosses over the minarets. Catholics sang Te Deum, crediting the Virgin's intercession for their triumph and stepping stone to Jerusalem. So yeah, once they had Acre, they had a good foothold in the Holy Land, and a place to launch attacks from, and rest their troops. It was a place of protection rather than just being out in the open field and whatnot. So the very next kind of key point comes that that ends in July of 1191. So the massacre at Acre is divine justice on August 20th, 1191. After Acre's fall, Saladin delayed ransom for 2,700 Muslim captives. Richard, impatient to march south, ordered their execution, sparing only 300 nobles. Chronicler Baha al-Din lamented Catholics like Richard of Devizes saw it as just retribution for Hatton's atrocities, a cleansing act to honor the martyred, true cross. The army, purified by this act, advanced with renewed fervor, her eyes fixed on the holy city. So, yeah, they held a bunch of prisoners. Saladin was supposed to pay them ransom for them. He was like, nah, I'm just not going to, because now they've got to feed these people and look after these people, and it's going to delay them from their objective. So I'm just going to, I'm just going to sit on my hands here and waste their time and their resources. So Richard said, well, hey, you guys slayed, 15,000 of our people in Jerusalem. So, I'll just kill most of these 2,700 and move on. Seems fair to me. They're Muhammadans. They that's part of their religion is to die trying to spread the Muslim religion. So let them go. It may seem a little cold, but I don't know. I don't see anything wrong with it. Why exhaust your own supplies and exhaust your resources trying to take care of these 2,700 people? If Saladin doesn't care enough to come get them, then yeah, just you got to do what you got to do sometimes. So the next battle is the Battle of Arsuf, and that's September 7th of 1191. Near Arsuf, Saladin's 30,000 troops harassed Richard's 20,000 crusaders with arrows and feigned retreats. The Hospitallers under Garnier de Noblas, Noblas, held firm until Richard unleashed a thunderous charge of 1,200 knights, scattering 7,000 Muslims and capturing Saladin's war drum. Ambrose's Estory. Yeah, Ambrose's Estory called Richard Christ's champion. His rout a divine verdict, exalting Catholic arms, clearing Jaffa's road with the blood of the unfaithful. So yeah, he with 1,200 knights, and they don't really say how many other fighters, because there's a distinction between soldiers and knights. But I know at 1,200 knights, and it could have just been the 1,200 knights. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, they scattered 7,000 Muslims and captured the war drum. So, and this basically cleared the way to the holy city from here. So they march on, and now comes January through June of 1192. So kind of a long stretch there. And that's basically fighting in Jerusalem. And there's a stalemate at Jerusalem. So Richard reached Beit Nuba, 12 miles from Jerusalem, in January and June of 1192. But Saladin's scorched fields and 20,000 defenders blocked advance. Richard rebuilt Ascalon's 12 towers, gifted 10,000 dinars to Bethlehem Shrine, and repelled ambushes at Ramla. His nightly prayers, recorded by cleric Geoffrey of Vinsoff, showed a king humbled before God, sparing his 15,000 men for future crusades, and wisdom Catholics revered as saintly. So yeah, after a couple battles, he just kind of called it a stalemate and was like, "Look, guys, I'm going to save these 15,000 men for future battles, future crusades. We don't need to take these heavy losses." Like I said earlier here, it's a lot easier to defend than it is to attack. And when you've got 15,000 men and you're trying to attack a garrison of 20,000 that in a fortified location, it's just, you got to cut your losses sometimes. But it doesn't end there. It definitely doesn't end there. But that's when he was just like, "All right, let's back off here. Let's rethink this. Let's regather." And then, so come August 5th of 1192, Saladin's surprise attack on Jaffa, held by 2,000 crusaders, nearly succeeded. But Richard, landing with 80 knights, rallied the garrison. On August 4th, he charged 10,000 Muslims with just 15 horsemen, slaying 700. His crossbowmen felling another 1,500 more. Chroniclers swore St. George rode beside him, this miracle cementing Richard's legend as God's paladin, preserving a key port for the faith's return. And yeah, if Jaffa had fallen, it would have been a completely different story here. We would be, probably would not have the holy places in Jerusalem and in the Holy Land that we have today. Because if they would have lost Jaffa, it would have been over. So, so the Treaty of Jaffa comes in September 2nd of 1192. After Jaffa's defense, Richard, weakened by fever, secured a truce. So Catholics held Acre, Jaffa, and the coast of Tyre. Pilgrims gained free passage to Jerusalem shrines. Bishop Hubert Walter of Salisbury led 200 faithful to pray at the Holy Sepulchre unmolested. This accord, yielding 15 coastal churches, was no defeat, but divine grace, ensuring Christ's sites endured under the church's gaze as Templars vowed to guard them. And yeah, what really kind of happened at the end of the Third Crusade here was, both sides were taking heavy losses, and they both were like, you know what, we'll call a truce. We will not desecrate your holy sites. We'll leave your churches, the sepulcher and some of the other more holy sites in Jerusalem, and we will allow, you guys come visit. We won't attack. You can leave your knights here to protect your areas. and we'll have a truce. They kept a few of the Crusader states outside of Jerusalem that they could use as supply points and places for pilgrims to gather before heading into the holy city. But yeah, at the end of the day, after both sides taking extremely heavy losses, we just came to a ceasefire essentially. Which is why to this day, like I said, you still have a lot of these holy churches in Jerusalem. So from 1192 onward, the Third Crusade through Jerusalem lay beyond grasp. Though Jerusalem lay beyond grasp was a splendid saga of Catholic might. Richard's feats lionized in 12 Latin chronicles rivaled rivaled Roland's. The Crusader states with 60 new chapels thrived under Henry of Champagne. The military orders, now 2,000 strong, stood as Christ's vanguards against Saladin's heirs. For the faithful, this was heaven's work, a testament to the church's eternal crusade, its knights forever crowned in glory for battle under the cross. So yeah, that kind of ends the Third Crusade in kind of a stalemate. We were able to continue to build churches in the Holy Land. We maintained access to our holy sites. The Muhammadans were not desecrating our most holy sites anymore. We got back the true cross, which was the actual cross that Christ was crucified on, and yeah, so it wasn't an all-out victory, but we got what we set out for, and that was, like I said earlier, the main thing is the Holy Sepulchre. We maintained the Sepulchre, and we got passage to our holy sites, and we actually grew the area, and we put up more churches, and we held on to some cities in the area and some fortified structures that we could defend. So as some people might say, oh, it was a loss. You didn't take Jerusalem. It's not a loss. We got what we set out for. And that was access to our holy sites and stop them from desecrating them. So with that being said, before I go, I just like I did at the beginning here, I'd like to remind everybody, especially talking about sites like the Holy Sepulchre and the church at the Garden of Gethsemane and stuff like that is, remember, this is Holy Week. It is not Easter. Easter is not, it is just one day, but it is not what this is all about. Holy Week is much more important than just Easter. So I think everybody needs to take some time this week and really reflect on Jesus's passion, on his death, not just his resurrection, but without Good Friday, without his death, there could be no resurrection. And also, to remember the Holy Thursday, the Last Supper, the incident where Jesus instituted the Eucharist. Do this in remembrance of me, but it is also, it is not just a thing we do to remember. It is actually Jesus's body, blood, soul, and divinity in the Eucharist. So, I think everybody should just take a little time this week and reflect on what Holy Week really is, all the way from Palm Sunday to Holy Monday, where Jesus, went nuts in the temple and set things straight, overturned tables, cast out the people in the markets, the merchants, really gave the Pharisees a what for, and set the stage for his coming death and resurrection. So with that being said, guys, thank you all for coming out. I really appreciate you showing up to watch this. God bless all of you. I will be praying for you. And Emily and I will be back tomorrow for another of our Restore Christendom episodes. So see you guys tomorrow, and God bless.
Pater noster, qui es in celis, sanctificetur nomen tuum, adveniat ut in cielo et in terra. Panem nostrum quotidianum da nobis hodie, et dimite nobis debita nostra, sicut et nos dimitimus debitoribus nostris, et ne nos inducas in tentationem, sed libera nos a